When the enemy's within me, picture me, my identity's winner, checking my pedigree. This is my autobiography, more than a philosophy. Life is living and I gotta be driven, given my history, rising above the odds of World War Who? You, World War Who? It's up, World War Who? It's true, I think we're fighting ourselves. World War Who? World War Who? It's you, World War Who? It's self, I think I'm fighting myself.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the World War U podcast. I'm your host as always, Mansfield. And I'm super excited about today's topic, which is exposure versus execution. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because a lot of times I've heard people say that you are pretty much the crowd that you hang around. So you're a product of the people that you spend so much time with. And as much as that statement has got some truth to it, what I've gotten to realize is that it just doesn't boil down to being exposed to certain things in life. It comes down to what you actually do with that exposure. Now, I'll give you a classic example here. You could be friends with a couple of billionaires, right? And your friendship is not based on a money scale. So you're not friends because you've got the same amount of money in the bank, or you are in the same kind of business ventures or anything like that. You're probably friends on a we grew up together basis. So what this then means is that you are exposed to a $1 billion lifestyle when you are not a billionaire. And this is the place where that statement then does not add up to what people actually think it adds up to. You're exposed to a billionaire lifestyle, but you are not a billionaire. But now there's people who get that exposure and they learn from what they're exposed to. So you're not a billionaire, but you are surrounded by a couple of billionaires. So you begin to ask questions. You begin to want to learn, to understand how they manage to execute to get to that level. Now, the first group that I would want to talk about is the group that is exposed but not inspired. There is a group that is exposed but is not inspired. Now, what happens with this group is they are part of the circle, but because they're part of the circle, they get comfortable in the circle. So essentially, they get comfortable with other people's success. And because they are part of the circle, they start to believe that they're successful as well. And this group of people has the biggest problem of when you actually leave the circle and you go into your own private space, you are not fulfilled. You feel there's an emptiness. And the reason why you feel that there's an emptiness is because you are essentially living two different lives. So when you walk out your door, you are an average guy. When you meet your mates, you are a billionaire, essentially. So when people see you from the outside, they see you coming out of a beautiful car or going into a prestigious restaurant, or pretty much you're worrying about the left side of the menu when you eat and not the right side. And the reason why a lot of people kind of get caught up in this mess is because they do not actually have a drive for themselves to achieve what their circle has achieved. And what then happens in the future with people like this is that when the curtain closes, they are always the people who feel that they've been done wrong. So if the billionaire friend decides to cut you off, they are the first people who feel, oh, now he thinks he's too big, or now he doesn't respect our friendship, he's not loyal. But it comes to a place where you need to understand that people evolve, people grow and continue to grow. And regardless of the fact that you're friends, if they do not see any growth in you, it's up to them to cut you out of whatever they're doing. Because it's pointless to keep someone in a circle who is not contributing to the circle. And by contributing, I don't mean you need to contribute financially. Because clearly you're not a billionaire, so you cannot match. You cannot take them out to a restaurant and have them feed on a A plus or an A2 steak. You cannot afford it. But you need to still bring value to the circle. The second group that I want to talk about is people who actually get exposed and they are inspired to do better. So these are the people that I mentioned earlier that ask questions. They are not comfortable with riding in their friend's private jet, but they also want to figure out, how can I get my own private jet? And what this taught me was that at the end of the day, it does not matter how much you know. What matters is what you do with what you know. What matters is, what do you actually do with your knowledge? Because knowledge is everywhere. Knowledge is everywhere in the world, but it takes that one person, it takes that bold step to say, okay, this is how you can become A, B, C, or D. So I'm actually going to take this active step to become this. And I've noticed that in our generation, especially with social media and everything, the journey is not as easy because we hardly see the journey. So what we see on social media is a lot of pictures, a lot of videos of people who have made it in life. But we actually do not see what happens in the background. So we have no picture of the journey. So what then happens is we end up trying to chase a result that we have no idea how to get to. So we are exposed to a lot of knowledge, we're exposed to a lot of information, but it's not explicit information. It's not explicit information. So it's difficult for you to be inspired by information that is not explicit because it is not directly for you. It's for the general public, it's general information. But if you're exposed to a lifestyle where you have a person that's living that lifestyle, that you hang out with on a day-to-day basis or every other day, they can literally sit down with you and give you a step-by-step guide. You can actually see the journey unfold before your own eyes. And this is where it brings me to say that execution is worshipped more than exposure. You could be exposed to very little things, but if you execute on those small things, you are better than someone who's exposed to big things and they do not execute. I read a quote online that said that if I don't kill it, my family won't eat it. If I don't kill it, my family won't eat it. So you could be exposed to hunting. You're taken on a hunting trip, and whatever animal you are hunting, if you do not shoot that animal, you are not going to eat. End of story. You can come back with pictures on your Instagram, on your Facebook stories that you went hunting, but you brought home nothing. So that's just one thing that I want us to understand, that there's no such thing as second-hand success. Just because you hang around successful people, it does not mean that you are going to succeed unless you actually act upon the information that you have, unless you actually get to a place where you start implementing the things that you see on a day-to-day basis. It's okay to be LeBron James's friend, but as much as you're exposed to his lifestyle, as much as you get VIP tickets to go and watch an NBA Finals game, when he wins the championship, you do not get a ring. When he wins a championship, you don't get a ring. So you need to understand that there's a certain place where success is going to go that you cannot go, even if you're part of the circle. There's a place where you need credentials for you to get to that level. So you actually need to get into the game. You're not going to get a ring just because you are the best friend of the next biggest player. You could get all the other accolades that come with him being the biggest player, but you are never going to get recognized as a champion just because you're friends with the biggest player. So this is just one thing that I just want to leave with you guys, that at the end of the day, if you don't execute on your purpose, if you do not execute on your calling, you are always going to be part of the circle. You're going to be exposed, but you are never going to realize You're always going to be on the journey, but you are never going to have the result. So you need to get to a place where you start looking at, I've been exposed to 1, 2, 3 things. And this is where I am supposed to be. This is where I am going. How can I use this information that I have right now to get me to the place that I'm supposed to get to? How am I going to use this information that I have to get to the place that I have to? And that is one of the burdens that we suffer so much on a day-to-day basis. There's so much information. There's so much information around. I mean, everybody knows that you need to eat well, you need to exercise, you need to go to the gym to maintain a healthy body. But how many of us actually diligently do what that information says? How many of us actually spend time to go to the gym? How many of us actually run? How many of us actually eat healthy to start off with? We've got the information, but the execution is lacking. So if you have a dream of succeeding, or if you have a dream of being part of that inner circle, if you want to be in the championship season, you're going to need to execute at a champion's level. So first you need to get yourself into the game. Once you get yourself into the game, you need to execute at the same level that the champions execute at. Because at that level, there's no excuses. It's either you execute or you don't. Like I said, if you don't kill it, you're not going to eat it. So it needs to get to that place where you understand that success is not like secondhand smoke. Just because you're standing next to someone who's smoking and you can catch a puff, that's not how success works. You have to put in effort. You need to execute on your gift at a personal level, at a personal and a private level. That's the other thing that people don't realize, that as far as your friendship or your circle goes, you all have private lives and you have private standards. You need to learn to execute at a personal level and at a private level. That is the only way that you realize your purpose, and this is the only way you realize what you are called out to do. Because at the end of the day, legacy is an individual thing. You are not remembered for being someone's friend. That does not last forever. You are remembered for who you are and what you did. So until we grasp that idea or that concept of what legacy is and what success means and what purpose is all about, we should stop just being in a circle for the sake of exposure and actually start using this exposure to be what we are meant to be. I hope this will help someone out there. And I'm not trying to knock anyone who's within a circle that is doing greater than they are. All I'm saying is use that circle to make yourself better. Use that circle to make something out of yourself. Do not just be there for the sake of being there. Do not be a group, essentially. Don't just be there for the pictures or the Instagram. Be there to learn, get that knowledge, and use it to make it a better you. I hope this is going to help someone out there. And with that, guys, I'm just going to say thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you again next week.
World War Who? You. World War Who? It's up. World War Who? It's true. I think we're fighting ourselves. World War Who? World War Who? It's you. World War Who? It's up. I think I'm fighting myself.